Hey, it's Anthony from 9 or Bravo Adventure Riding or 9 Bravo or 9B, 9 Boy, IX Bravo Adventure Riding. Anyway, hey, it's been a good spring, off to a little bit of a slow start because as those of you who keep up with me know, I had a couple of cracked ribs earlier this spring from testing out my engine guards, and I'm happy to say that they functioned well. And by the way, I'm just going to digress for a moment here and talk about the engine guards. Sometimes I get comments that I get a fair amount of comments, and I try to reply to everybody. And some of them I'm just not quite sure what to say. For example, one person commented something to the effect of, well, hope you didn't buy Kawasaki brand stuff because it's too expensive. Well, all right, I'm kind of a guy who definitely, I'm a deal shopper. So in some respects, I understand that line of thinking. In fact, normally, I bought this bike brand new, to back up just a little bit further. And that's not how I normally operate. Normally, I look for, a minimum, a bike that is new but last year's model, or more likely, a used vehicle, bike, whatever, with low miles on it. That just hasn't been ridden that much. Person bought it and found they didn't have the interest or wasn't the right model for them, whatever. So that's what I'd be looking for in a motorcycle, price-wise, and similarly with accessories. However, with the purchase of this Versys X, things were a little bit different. A friend of mine has a KLR and was kind of encouraging me to pick up another bike because I'd been without for several years. And, I looked at the KLR, I looked at the DR650, and I liked both of those bikes. I looked at a few others that I was a little less interested in, either because the price was too high. Like, the BMWs, BMW makes some great bikes, but they were out of my price range, and actually the small BMW, the 310, hadn't come out yet. In retrospect, even if it had, I probably would have looked at it, maybe tried to ride one, but I don't think I would have bought one. I think the X here is as good or better than the BMW. Looks cool though. I do like the looks of the BMW. Anyway, what I was going to say, to get back to my original point, was that expensive, I guess, depends on how you want to calculate things. In the case of the bike itself, I would have had to wait at least a year to purchase this bike on the used market or as a closeout. And that's not something I was ready to do. I wanted a motorcycle to ride, right away. And in order to fit that bill in the used market, I would have had to go with a bike that wasn't quite what I wanted, because after doing research, this one was as close as I can find to doing all the things that I wanted a motorcycle to do. And then, because of the fact that this is a brand new model, it was pretty difficult just to get manufacturer accessories for this. I had to wait about 45 days for the engine guard and the top case to show up. So that's, if you can't get the manufacturer's accessories, you can probably imagine, in fact, those of you who own this bike or have kept up with it know that it was probably at least 6 months after the release before very many aftermarket accessories were showing up. So, back to the original comment about buying Kawasaki brand stuff. First off, with regard to the engine guards, the Kawasaki engine guards are not horribly expensive for what you get. Secondly, had I not had them within that first 6 or 8 months of ownership, I think there's a good chance I'd have been replacing some fairing parts. And lastly, the Kawasaki brand was available, and no one else's were. So I don't see that, if you wanted engine guards during that first 6 to 8 months of ownership, you're going to get the Kawasaki brand. So did I spend $50 or $60 more? Probably. On the other hand, I was able to negotiate a deal to get them installed for free, so I didn't have to fuss with the installation. Not that it looks that difficult, but at any rate, I got them installed on the dealership's dime as part of the package, and I wouldn't have got that with the third-party stuff. The other Kawasaki item that's on here is the top case. I personally, I don't think it's ugly, but if I had to do it over, and I think I mentioned this in my 1-year update, I would probably buy a different piece of luggage. This Kawasaki top case does what I need it to do, but there are some things that I find frustrating about it. One of them is that the little retainer strap that is supposed to keep the case from flopping open all the way and bouncing off your seat just is flat too flimsy. That thing pulled out, and I'm not that hard on the case. It just, there's a small screw that goes into thin plastic, and when you open it up and put a little bit of pressure on it, the screw pulls out. I put some Gorilla Glue on it, and it, lasted a few more rides and then came out again, so I just took it off. Secondly, I think that while the case is functional, there are probably some third-party cases out there that are a little bit heftier and maybe provide some better compartmentalization. I was able to find some small zip bags on not on eBay, but on Amazon, and I've started categorizing. I think 5 of them are about $20, and so I've used them to start organizing the items that I keep routinely in there. Forest Service map of the roads that I'm riding on to supplement my GPS. A toolkit that includes some, like a T5 wrench and some other Allen screws, because you need those, which I'll come back to that in a minute, why you need them. But at any rate, so I've got the tools and maps, and I keep a ham radio in there. And it's proven useful to me to have these. I started off using 1-gallon Ziploc bags, and they just wear out from bouncing around in there. So now I think for items that need to be waterproof or water resistant anyway, I'll probably keep those in a gallon Ziploc bag inside these cloth pouches that zip up, and then they won't wear as much. So, any rate, let's see. My purpose of this video here was, one, just to post some information, let you guys know that I am out there riding, and also to just verbally respond to some of the other questions that have popped up. Another person suggested that the top case blocks the wind. I'm not sure this person's actually ridden the bike, because I just don't see that as being, certainly the top case is not taller than me, and even the factory windshield, which is on there right now, and myself, both being on the bike, as the bike requires an operator, block the wind from the top case. So I really don't see where that's blocking wind and reducing gas mileage or anything else like that. High beam selector. I do have to, by the way, this is a road that goes, I haven't been down it for a while, but this goes back to the American Girl mine. And the road's a bit wet, slipped a little bit, and I started this ride with the idea that I'm going to keep my bike clean so I don't have to wash it when I get home. I tried pretty hard for a little while, and then after going through a couple mud puddles that I just didn't see or want to avoid, Bike was a little bit muddy anyway, so I just kind of gave up and went and rode. The other thing I was trying to do was be careful because when I recorded this video, my ribs weren't quite healed up. They're doing pretty good now. It might be close to the 12 weeks that I was supposed to wait. Anyway, where was it? Oh, high beam. I have to agree with the assessment that the headlights on this system are on the bike, the stock headlights, inadequate. One of the first things that I did was change out the high beam. It did not require any special tools. It's actually very simple to disassemble the bike. So again, I'm not sure that this person's actually seen this particular bike. But I will say that getting a good quality LED bulb, popping it in there, and then adjusting the headlight afterwards is a really good investment of time. It probably takes an hour and a half to, the first time you do it anyway, because you got to kind of figure out what has to come off, and put the LED bulb in there in a fashion that allows the fan to keep the LED cool, and then after that, I had to make a few little rides to tweak the beam so that I could get it at a position that I felt was good for both high and low beam. At this point, I'm pretty happy with it. I may tweak it just a little bit on the high beam side, but replacing it with an LED by itself was a big step forward, a lot more light and less current. And then getting it adjusted is helpful. And then I have several upgrades planned for the near future. One of them is replacement of the windshield, which actually I've already done. I just haven't had a chance to edit the video. And I'm going to have to reshoot some of it because I was going to put some info on the installation up. And my video, I forgot to format the video card before I ran the camera, so the video cuts off halfway through the install. At any rate, so Madstad windshield replacement. So far pretty happy with that, but some more video on that in the future. Seat concepts. This I bought very early a seat concept seat. It was significantly better than the factory seat, but it just kind of felt like I was sliding forward all the time. And yeah, I wanted to give it a chance to break in, so I rode the bike most of last year with that on there, and it just, still, even after 6 to 8 months worth of riding, same issues. So I contacted them, and they've been very helpful. They are in the process of shipping me a gripper seat, which they gave me a decent discount on, which I hope will help. And then also sent them a photo of my seat, and they believe that that's their first shot at making the Versys seat. So they're sending me a new version of their foam, which once I get that and have ridden it enough to know how it feels compared to the other one, I'll also do an update on that one. Looking forward to that. And then back to the lighting situation, I've got some inexpensive $40 LED lamps, and then a couple bucks more for some brackets to mount to the engine guard that I'm going to be putting on there. I'm holding off on that particular project until I get a couple more things ready to. I want to run the wiring for several of the things that I want to do in the future while I've got the front end apart, just because it's not difficult, it's time consuming to take apart the front, the upper, lower, and mid fairing to get to the wiring. So I want to install the switch for the auxiliary lamps and some wiring that I can hook into for future projects without having to disassemble the front end to get to the wiring that I want. Um, yeah. So, well, that's quite a bit that I've rambled on about there. Um, I think also I've been asked if I would post full rides, and boy, I just don't know. I have a good internet connection for the area that I live in northern Idaho, but a good internet connection here is pretty darn slow in a lot of other places. So the idea of uploading, a 60-minute to 4-hour video is pretty much impossible. I would have to leave the thing uploading for at least a day, maybe several, depending on what video compression I used. So I'm just not sure that I'm going to do that. This particular video that I'm showing you here while I chatter is unedited. I may go back and do a little bit of color correction. We'll see. The video actually had pretty good light, so it didn't come out too bad right out of the camera. But probably look at that. I'm not editing it though. I took part of the ride down the Camp 9 road and then back through American Girl Mine and then back to the Camp 9 road. And there's no splicing or anything other than to merge the video files together that came out of the camera. So I'll post that intact, and I don't know. If those of you who really want to see full rides continue to comment on that, I'll see what I can do about it. But I just I just don't have the internet connection to do those type of things, and I'm not willing to move to the city to get it. I like the fact that I can jump on this bike and in 15 minutes be in the national forest and ride pretty much all day without having to do much more than spend another 10 or 15 minutes on the state highway to jump over to the next county or Forest Service road. The Madstad windshield, I'll just comment on that one a little bit. There were several things that I was hoping to do with that windshield. One, I wanted a windshield that isn't too tall. In some ways, even the factory one perhaps would benefit from being shorter. At any rate, the Madstad is attractive because it is adjustable. Comes in different heights for the shield itself, and also helps reduce some of the vacuum that causes the turbulence around your head normally. In that, the way the air flows over most windshields creates an area of low pressure where the rider sits. And unfortunately for me anyway, that's a little dicey. I'm sure I'm being careful there because I don't want to re-injure my rib. Anyway, for me, when I'm going down the highway, that causes some noise, turbulence around my head, which is, it's not horrible, but it's just annoying. And it's worse when I'm wearing the visor on my helmet. So the Madstad helps reduce that issue by allowing some airflow underneath the windshield, and then also giving you the ability to adjust it depending on where you're riding. So you can drop it all the way down and lean it back, so you can be looking over it pretty easily on a road like this where you're not moving too fast. And then if you're going to be out on the highway all day, you can run it up a little bit higher and change the angle to whatever suits you for a little bit more protection. So I've went on one ride since I installed it, and that was basically just a little shakedown to try to figure out where to run the adjustments. Pretty happy with it so far. I will say that, with the factory windshield and a taller windshield, I'll have to look up the name, but with those, they created issues with the way air and wind and dirt hits your face. So for sure you'd need to wear goggles, whereas the Madstad windshield, I actually just wore regular glasses, and and was able to ride with the visor up, and it was perfectly comfortable. There was no dirt and wind hitting my face. So that piece is pretty nice, and so far it's looking like it's very possibly worth the money. My visor vibration, still a bit of an issue. Not sure what I'm going to do with that. It comes off pretty quickly, so I suppose I'll just go back to popping it off for most rides and then putting it back on when I need it. Also, I'm working on trying to figure out a better way to get audio from the camera. In case I don't know, I'm not big on vlogging while I'm riding. Usually I want to be 100% in the riding moment while I'm out there, and then I'll add a voiceover later like I'm doing now. But there are some things, like for example, when I was adjusting that windshield, it would have been nice to be able to record clearly my thoughts while I was riding, even if not to post on YouTube, but just for myself so that I could remember the different positions and what I was thinking. So I'm looking at different types of adapters that might allow me to get a microphone into my Hero 3, and I did purchase a USB-C to 3.5 millimeter jack adapter, which I haven't tested yet, but I'm kind of hoping that I would be able to use that and interface with my Sena to be able to record better audio while I'm riding. In addition to that, I'm hoping that the Sena noise canceling works with it. The Sena, I recorded some comments via Bluetooth, and the quality is not very good. I'm not sure if I'm going to post that or not, because Bluetooth just doesn't have a very robust bandwidth for the audio, but it's all clear. The Bluetooth is not a robust audio, but the noise canceling in the microphone makes it so that you can easily understand what I'm saying almost the whole time. And so if I could have that microphone with the noise canceling and a wired connection as opposed to Bluetooth going into the recorder, that could be pretty good. I'm also hoping that I can use my Bose headset with the Sena. And again, just haven't had time to work on that. The Bose headset, the QC20 and QC30 noise canceling headsets are the most comfortable way I've found to ride. The active noise canceling in those headsets is much nicer than earplugs, and it is nice to have some decent quality music while you're riding. Sometimes I don't, but on a longer ride or something, or just some days you just want some tunes, right? So it's good to have that. Anyway, looks like I ran out of stuff to show you, so I'm going to go ahead and get off of here and come back later with a little bit of an update on the kickstand neutral safety switch. I was up on top of a mountain and the bike stopped starting. So I'll show you a quick and dirty way to be able to get down the mountain, and up to you if it happens to you whether you want to replace the kickstand safety switch or not. I'm probably going to see if it's under warranty, and if it is, yeah, I guess probably replace it. But I'm not a big fan of those anyway. Just put the kickstand up. I don't need one more thing to go wrong with a bike. And every bike that I've ever seen that had a kickstand safety switch, it went wrong at some point. Anyway, hey, that's it from 9 Bravo, IX Bravo, 9B. Adventures in motorcycling. Catch you later. Have a great day.